The world had been quiet for a long time. Not the kind of quiet that comes at night when everything is asleep, but a deeper, heavier quiet. The kind that feels like the calm before a storm. On the surface, life went on as usual. Cities bustled, with cars and people. Children played in parks and markets overflowed with voices and laughter. But beneath the surface, things were changing. In hidden facilities under mountains, deserts, and oceans, humans were building something the galaxy would never forget, something that had been kept secret for decades. For generations, humans had been watched. Alien civilizations had studied Earth quietly, noting its patterns, its achievements, and its weaknesses. Some saw humans as primitive, still bound to old conflicts and old politics. Others feared humans without truly understanding them. The Galactic Council, which governed interactions between advanced civilizations, dismissed Earth as harmless. Too small, too isolated, too weak, they would say. They never thought humans could become a real force. But humans had patience. They had a way of hiding strength until it mattered most. Deep inside the Defense of Humanity Initiative, AI's group of engineers, scientists, and strategists worked tirelessly. They were not heroes in the usual sense. They didn't wear capes or go on television. They didn't seek fame. They believed in one thing: survival. Over decades, nations had quietly set aside rivalries. Old conflicts had been buried. The world's leaders agreed that if Earth ever faced a true threat, humanity had to be ready. And ready they were. The technology they were building was unlike anything seen before. Some called it war machines, but they were more than that. These were living pieces of engineering genius capable of thinking, adapting, and moving faster than any human or alien could imagine. Their power came from decades of trial and error, from generations of human minds working together, sometimes in secrecy, sometimes in complete isolation. People on the outside saw ordinary factories, power plants, or research stations. But inside, machines were being assembled that could change the course of history. Even the scientists themselves sometimes marveled at what they were creating. They did not work for money or recognition. They worked because they believed in humanity. And they were careful. Every detail was calculated, every failsafe accounted for. Nothing could be left to chance. They knew that once these machines were unleashed, nothing would ever be the same again. And yet, despite all their work, the world outside remained unaware. On the surface, life was fragile and ordinary. Farmers tended fields, engineers built bridges, teachers taught children, and parents worried about the future. No one suspected that deep beneath their feet, something incredible was being prepared. Humans had learned a lesson long ago. To survive, one must often wait in silence, and humanity had waited. Not all humans agreed with what was happening. Some questioned the secrecy, the resources spent, the immense power that had been gathered. There were debates, quiet arguments behind closed doors, but most understood. They understood that the universe was not kind, that there were forces out there who would destroy Earth without hesitation, that patience, intelligence, and careful preparation could be the difference between survival and extinction. And so, the work continued. Meanwhile, beyond Earth, alien eyes were watching. Some were curious, others dismissive, and a few uneasy. They had seen human progress, yes, but they did not realize the full scale. They did not understand that humans had been learning in silence, observing quietly, waiting for the right moment. And in their underestimation, they made a mistake that would one day change the galaxy. Among the humans working in the secret, there was a sense of shared purpose that bound them together. It was not just about machines or technology. It was about hope, about proving that humanity could survive, that humanity could stand against any threat. They worked long hours, often without seeing the sun or the stars. Sometimes, when fatigue became overwhelming, someone would stop and look at a small photograph, a letter, or a simple message of encouragement from someone far away. And in those quiet moments, they remembered why they were doing this. Not for glory, not for conquest, but for the survival of every human being. One night, As storms raged across the planet, a small team gathered in a hidden facility far below the surface. Rain pounded the earth above, lightning cracked across the sky, and the wind howled like a wild beast. Inside, the team was calm. Every movement was precise, every instruction followed. They were about to activate a new prototype, a machine that would become the first of its kind. Engineers watched screens displaying complex calculations, mechanics, tightened components, and scientists monitored systems that no ordinary human could comprehend. And then slowly, the machine began to hum. A low, steady vibration filled the chamber. Lights flickered as the systems came online. And for the first time, humanity touched the edge of power it had never dared to show the galaxy. Outside the facility, life went on. No one noticed the hum beneath the earth. No one saw the lights flicker under mountains and oceans, but humans working in secrecy knew. They knew that this was only the beginning. The first step had been taken. A message had been sent without a word being spoken. A silent warning that humanity had patience, intelligence, and power. There was fear, too. Not of failure, but of the responsibility that came with such power. Humans had always struggled with their own impulses, their own mistakes. Could they control what they had created? Could they ensure that this technology would protect rather than destroy? These thoughts weighed heavily on their minds. Yet even as fear lingered, determination shone brighter. They had waited so long, and now they were ready. In the weeks that followed, testing continued. Machines moved across hidden test ranges, performing feats that seemed impossible. They flew, ran, and adapted, learning at a speed that outpaced their human creators. Every success was celebrated quietly, every failure noted and corrected, and as the machines grew more capable, the humans behind them grew more confident. They were not building tools for war. They were building guardians, protectors, sentinels capable of defending Earth if the galaxy ever turned against it. And somewhere, far above Earth, unseen by human eyes, distant civilizations began to sense something unusual. A subtle shift in energy patterns, a strange signal that had no clear source. Some dismissed it, assuming it was a natural phenomenon. Others felt a chill, a quiet warning that something had changed. And in the hearts of the few who understood, a small seed of fear took root. For humanity, the message was simple. Patience had its reward. Silence had its strength. And the quiet years, the hidden efforts, the endless nights of work and preparation were not wasted. The first steps had been taken towards something that would one day astonish the galaxy. Something that would prove that humans were not to be underestimated, that their resilience, intelligence, and courage were unmatched. As Part 1 draws to a close, the world above continues as it always has. People live, laugh, work, and dream. They have no idea what lies beneath their feet, no hint of the incredible guardians that humanity has been preparing. But the story has begun. The quiet before the storm is ending, and in the hearts and minds of those who have labored in secrecy, one thought echoes louder than any fear. Humanity is ready, and when the time comes, the galaxy will see it. The calm of Earth was shattered in an instant. It began far from human eyes on the edge of the solar system, where one of Earth's distant research outposts floated quietly among the stars. The outpost was small, almost unnoticeable, a cluster of metallic modules and solar arrays humming with life and energy. Its purpose was simple: to observe, to gather information, and to quietly push humanity's reach into the universe. Nothing more. The humans there had no idea how close they were to danger. They had monitored alien activity, logged signals, and studied anomalies, but no one expected the Zevran Dominion to appear. They came in silence, a fleet of ships moving like shadows across the void. Their numbers were overwhelming, their weapons deadly. They had been watching humans for a long time, studying their habits, their defenses, their patience, and when they decided to strike, they struck hard. The first attack was swift. Explosions tore through the outpost, and alarms blared across the modules. Humans scrambled to escape, their training tested to its limits. They had contingency plans, escape pods, emergency signals, but the Dominion had anticipated many of their moves. Their ships unleashed waves of energy that melted shields and tore metal apart. It seemed impossible that anyone could survive. Yet, in the chaos, the humans acted with calm and precision. They were not just scientists, they were prepared. A small team activated a signal, a message that had been dormant for decades. It wasn't a cry for help, not really. It was a trigger, a signal sent to Earth that something extraordinary had been set in motion. The signal pulsed through space, invisible, inaudible to any alien technology that might intercept it. It carried instructions, a code, and a single urgent message. Now, back on Earth, in facilities hidden under mountains and oceans, systems came alive. Massive hangars that had been dormant for years opened, revealing machines of incredible size and power. They were more than vehicles, they were guardians, weapons of precision and intelligence that humanity had been perfecting in secret. Engineers and operators rushed to their stations, the hum of machinery filling the underground chambers. Every movement was rehearsed, every sequence tested countless times before. Now all that preparation would finally be used. The humans working, in secret, had waited for this moment their entire lives. They had studied history, learned from past wars, and perfected their technology. They understood that speed, intelligence, and adaptability were more important than brute force. And these war machines were built to think, to react, to fight with an efficiency no single human or alien could match. Above Earth, the sky remained calm, clouds drifting lazily across the sun. Below, however, the pulse of activity was immense. Engineers monitored every system, pilots checked their controls, and strategists calculated outcomes with careful precision. For a moment there was silence, an almost sacred pause, before the machines moved. They rose from the hidden chambers, their metal surfaces reflecting light like stars. Their engines hummed with power, and their sensors scanned the world around them. Humanity had prepared for centuries, and now at last the time had come. Back at the outpost, the remaining humans watched as their attackers closed in. The Zevran Dominion ships had expected an easy victory, confident in their overwhelming numbers. They had no idea that the humans they sought to destroy had allies waiting, guardians they could not see. And then, without warning, the first of Earth's war machines arrived in orbit above the outpost. Its size was staggering, its design flawless, and its presence alone caused the Dominion fleet to hesitate. The humans in the outpost activated their final defenses, coordinating with the machines above. Every movement was calculated, every strike precise. The war machines did not attack blindly. They analyzed, learned, and responded. Ships that had once seemed invincible were suddenly vulnerable. Energy beams struck with surgical accuracy, disabling weapons and engines without unnecessary destruction. The Dominion forces had never encountered anything like it. Their arrogance had blinded them to the possibility that humans could be this prepared, this capable. For those on the ground, watching the unfolding battle was terrifying and awe-inspiring at the same time. The humans had fought many times before, but never on this scale, never with such power. Explosions lit the void. Machines moved like giants across the stars, and for the first time, humans saw what they were truly capable of. It was not a victory born of anger or revenge. It was the result of patience, preparation, and determination. And yet, even as the machines fought, there was fear. Fear that the humans might lose, fear that the galaxy might finally see Earth not as a quiet observer but as a threat. But the fear was accompanied by a strange sense of pride. Every human who had worked in secrecy, every engineer who had labored in isolation, every strategist who had planned for decades could finally see the fruits of their efforts. Humanity had waited for the right moment, and now it was here. The Dominion ships were strong, but they were not prepared for humans' patience. They had underestimated the speed, intelligence, and determination of their opponents. Wave after wave of ships fell, disabled or destroyed by the calculated precision of the machines. Humans had learned that in war, panic was the enemy. The Zevran Dominion, facing resistance they did not expect, began to hesitate. Their formations broke, their confidence wavered, and for the first time they realized that Earth was not a minor planet to be conquered. The outpost, though damaged, remained intact. Humans emerged from their shelters, blinking against the bright light of explosions and energy pulses. They had survived, not by chance, but because they had planned, prepared, and relied on each other. And above them, in orbit, the war machines stood as silent guardians, a promise of humanity's strength and resolve. Back on Earth, the response was immediate. Messages were sent to other hidden facilities, activating systems that had been silent for decades. Humans everywhere involved in the project worked tirelessly, knowing that the galaxy had finally begun to take notice. This was not the end of the battle, but it was the first clear signal. Humanity was awake, and it would no longer be underestimated. For the scientists and engineers, the emotional weight of the moment was immense. Years of work, sacrifice, and secrecy had led to this moment. Some had never seen the sky except through screens and cameras. Others had spent decades away from family, hidden in underground labs. Yet now, as the war machines moved across the stars, a quiet pride filled them. They had done what they were told was impossible. They had shown that humanity could survive, could fight, and could protect itself against forces far stronger and more advanced, and the galaxy had begun to notice. Signals from distant civilizations picked up the disturbances in orbit. Sensors that had once ignored Earth suddenly detected patterns that could not be explained. Some alien observers dismissed the signals, assuming a natural event or a technological accident. Others, however, felt an unfamiliar fear, a sense that humanity was no longer a quiet participant in galactic affairs, but a player to be reckoned. With the humans on the outpost having survived the initial attack, began to coordinate with Earth in earnest. Communication flowed rapidly, strategies were updated, and every available resource was put to use. Humanity had waited, and now it was acting. But it was not chaos that guided them. It was calculation, intelligence, and a shared understanding that the universe did not forgive hesitation. In the hours that followed, the Dominion forces retreated. They had underestimated humans at every turn, and the consequences were clear. The outpost remained standing, the humans alive, and the war machines had proven their worth. For those who had doubted, for those who had questioned the secrecy, the proof was undeniable. Humanity had waited in silence, observed, and prepared for the moment the universe would force its hand. And yet, for all the pride and relief, there was a quiet understanding among those involved. This was only the beginning. The battle had been a warning, not a conclusion. The galaxy had been alerted to humanity's presence in a way that could not be ignored. And now, every decision, every action, and every move would carry the weight of what had just occurred. As the outpost sent its final reports, the humans watched the stars. The sky seemed different now, filled with unknown possibilities and new threats. But for the first time, there was also a sense of hope. Humanity had survived the first test. Humanity had shown the galaxy that it would not be overlooked, that it would not be conquered without resistance. And deep in the hearts of those who had worked in silence for so long, there was a quiet pride. The universe would remember this day. The day when humans, patient and prepared, finally acted. The solar system had never felt so alive. From the surface of Earth to the far reaches of orbit, an energy thrummed through the air and through hidden layers of the planet. It was not just the humans who felt it, but the machines they had built, the guardians that had been waiting silently for decades. Now, fully awake and fully prepared, they moved as one, a force that could not be ignored. The first time the war machines moved in unison, it was breathtaking. On Earth, scientists and engineers watched monitors that displayed every machine in motion. Some were enormous, taller than the tallest skyscrapers, their metal frames gleaming under artificial lights. Others were smaller, agile, capable of moving through forests, deserts, and mountains with astonishing speed. Every machine was alive in its own way. Sensors glowed, gears hummed, and energy flowed through them like a pulse. They were not merely weapons. They were extensions of human ingenuity, designed to protect, to defend, and if necessary, to fight. For the humans controlling them, it was both exhilarating and terrifying. Every button pressed, every system activated, was a step into the unknown. They had rehearsed this moment countless times in simulations, but simulations could never capture the full reality of war. The machines had power and intelligence beyond anything they had ever seen in their lifetime. And as they rose from their hidden chambers and deployed into space, there was a quiet understanding among the humans. Once these machines were unleashed, there would be no turning back. In orbit above the moon, the first true test began. The HFY Dominion, having suffered losses at the outpost, sent a larger fleet, confident that numbers would overwhelm the humans' defenses. They did not understand that humanity's strength was not in numbers, but in precision, adaptability, and strategy. The war machines met them with calm efficiency, calculating every move, every trajectory, every possible response. The battle began without warning. Massive energy blasts streaked across the void, lighting up the blackness of space. The Dominion ships fired in volleys, expecting to scatter the humans with brute force. But the war machines had learned faster. They moved in patterns that no human could follow with the naked eye, dodging attacks, countering with precise energy pulses that disabled enemy engines and weaponry. Each strike was calculated, designed to end the conflict quickly and with minimal, unnecessary destruction. From Earth, operators watched the battle unfold in awe. They could see the Dominion fleet, once imposing, breaking apart under the calculated attacks of the machines. Every successful strike brought a mixture of relief and wonder. Humans had built these machines, yes, but watching them in action was unlike anything imagined. It was as if the machines were alive, thinking, reacting, and learning in real time. And above all, they were loyal to the purpose for which they had been created, the protection of humanity. The Dominion fleet tried to regroup. Their commanders issued orders, directing ships to surround the war machines to cut off escape routes. But the machines adapted. They analyzed the new formation in milliseconds, responding with fluid motion that seemed almost impossible. One by one, Dominion ships were disabled. Their energy cores neutralized, their navigation systems jammed. They had expected a fight, but not this level of efficiency, not this level of control. On the ground, the humans coordinating the machines felt a mixture of pride and fear. Pride, because all their years of work, of secrecy and preparation, were finally paying off. Fear, because they knew that this battle, as impressive as it was only the beginning. The galaxy was vast, and there would be more who would challenge humanity. The stakes were enormous, and yet even in fear, there was determination. Humans had waited for this moment. They had planned for it, and they would not fail. The machines moved like giants across the battlefield, their forms casting long shadows in the void. Energy shields shimmered as they absorbed attacks, and their weapons struck with terrifying accuracy. Smaller machines darted between larger ones, providing support, repairing damage, and coordinating movements. The Dominion forces found themselves in a fight they had not anticipated, their confidence faltering as they realized that humans had not only prepared, but had anticipated their every move. Some of the Dominion ships attempted to escape, retreating toward distant parts of the solar system. But the war machines allowed them no mercy. They pursued with precision, disabling ships before they could vanish into the dark void. It was not cruelty. It was necessity. Humanity could not afford to leave a threat unchecked. Every enemy ship neutralized was a step toward ensuring that Earth and its people would survive. As the battle raged, the humans controlling the machines began to see patterns. They could predict enemy movements, anticipate attacks, and counter them with stunning accuracy. It was a dance of technology and strategy, a demonstration of patience and planning that had been years in the making. The humans watching screens, issuing commands and monitoring systems, felt a deep sense of connection to the machines. They were no longer just tools. They were partners, allies, and protectors in a fight that could determine the fate of their species. Meanwhile, far beyond, the solar system, Other civilizations began to notice. Signals from the battle reached the sensors of alien empires, alerts that humans were no longer passive observers. Some dismissed the reports, assuming exaggeration or error. Others reacted with alarm, realizing that humanity had capabilities that could not be ignored. The balance of power, long assumed, was shifting. The galaxy was beginning to understand that humans were patient, intelligent, and capable of incredible feats when pushed to the edge. Back at the outpost, survivors of the initial Dominion attack worked tirelessly. They coordinated with the machines, sending intelligence, monitoring enemy movements, and assisting in any way they could. Every human there understood the stakes. The machines were powerful, yes, but human judgment, creativity, and courage were equally vital. It was the combination of human minds and mechanical strength that had made victory possible. The battle did not last forever, but its impact was immediate. The Dominion fleet, once confident and arrogant, had been reduced. Ships drifted helplessly in orbit, disabled, their crews struggling to comprehend the speed and efficiency with which they had been defeated. The survivors realized that they were facing a species unlike any they had encountered before. Humans had patience, intelligence, and a willingness to prepare for decades without recognition. They had hidden their power, nurtured it, and now unleashed it with precision and purpose. On Earth, the humans who had overseen the war machines allowed themselves a moment of relief. The first battle had been won. The outpost was saved. Humanity had proven its capabilities, not through brute force alone, but through strategy, preparation, and unwavering determination. They knew that more challenges would come, that the galaxy was vast and unpredictable. But for now, they could celebrate a victory hard-earned, the result of decades of patience and ingenuity. And yet, even in victory, there was understanding that this was only the beginning. The machines had shown their strength, but they were only one part of a larger plan. Humanity had waited for this moment, had prepared for centuries, and had proven its ability to respond to threats. But the galaxy was vast, and those who underestimated humans would soon learn that patience and preparation were as powerful as weapons themselves. As the outpost sent its final reports back to Earth, humans everywhere felt the weight of what had just occurred. The battle had been a warning, a demonstration, a message to the stars. Humanity was awake. Humanity was capable. Humanity would not be ignored. And in the quiet moments, as engineers and scientists returned to their work, they realized something profound. For all the preparation, all the planning, all the secrecy, there was still more to do. The galaxy was vast, and humans had only begun to show what they were capable of. The war machines had moved, had fought, and had won. The humans behind them had proven their intelligence, courage, and resolve. And somewhere in the darkness of space, the stars themselves seemed to take notice, as if acknowledging that a new force had awakened, one that would not be overlooked, one that would not be underestimated. The quiet before the storm was ending. Humanity had stepped forward. The first battle had been fought, and the galaxy would never be the same. The battle above the moon had been a warning, but it was only the beginning. Earth's war machines had proven their strength, their intelligence, and their precision. Yet even as the Dominion fleet retreated, humans knew that the galaxy would not let this stand go unchallenged. Reports came in from distant sensors. Other alien civilizations were watching, analyzing, and reacting. Some were curious, some fearful, and a few quietly alarmed. Humanity had awakened something in the stars, something that could no longer be ignored. Deep within the war rooms on Earth, humans worked tirelessly. Screens glowed with data, satellites streamed images, and teams of strategists calculated movements across the solar system. Every human involved understood that the first battle was a demonstration, but the next steps would be far more complex. The war machines were powerful, but they were also finite. They needed direction, strategy, and coordination. Humanity had to act not out of anger, but with intelligence and foresight. The first task was to secure the entire solar system. Humanity could not allow alien forces to gain a foothold near Earth or its colonies. Outposts on Mars, the Moon, and even the icy moons of Jupiter were reinforced. Hidden war machines were deployed across strategic locations, not merely as weapons but as sentinels. They moved with precision, scanning for threats, analyzing energy signatures, and preparing for what would inevitably come next. Above all, humans were learning that their advantage was not only in the machines themselves, but in the combination of technology and human judgment. The war machines could analyze, adapt, and respond, but humans could think creatively, improvise, and make decisions that no algorithm could predict. The bond between humans and their machines was becoming clearer, a partnership that would define the coming battles. The Zevran Dominion, having suffered losses in the first encounter, did not retreat quietly. They regrouped, calling upon reinforcements from distant sectors. Their fleet swelled, now numbering thousands of ships, confident that sheer force could overwhelm the humans. They had underestimated patience before, but they believed that this time numbers would carry the day. They were wrong. The first engagement of this new phase took place near the orbit of Mars. Humans had anticipated the Dominion's move and positioned their machines strategically. Some machines were massive, towering over landscapes and space, stations alike. Others were smaller, agile, and capable of rapid strikes. Each machine had a specific role, and together they formed a network of precision that was almost impossible to penetrate. The Dominion attacked with confidence, but they were immediately met with a coordinated response. Energy shields shimmered as weapons fire collided, only to be countered with precision strikes that disabled engines and weapon systems. Smaller machines darted between larger ones, repairing damage, blocking attacks, and creating diversions. The humans controlling them were calm, their decisions deliberate, their planning meticulous. They had waited decades for this moment, and they were not about to waste it. The battle escalated quickly. Space around Mars became a chaotic, beautiful, and terrifying landscape. Explosions lit the void, energy beams streaked across the darkness, and the war machines moved with an elegance that belied their size. The humans coordinating them felt a mixture of awe and fear. Awe at the power and precision of what they had built, and fear at the responsibility that came with controlling such destructive force. Every decision carried weight, every action had consequences, and the eyes of the galaxy were watching. Despite their strength, the Dominion forces were not invincible. They were powerful, yes, but they lacked the patience, coordination, and adaptability of the humans. One by one, their ships were disabled, forced to retreat, or destroyed. Humanity did not seek unnecessary destruction, but they could not allow their enemies to regroup. Every engagement was a lesson, every strike a demonstration of strategy over brute force. On the ground, in Earth's command centers, humans worked tirelessly to maintain communication with their deployed machines. Every signal was analyzed, every movement monitored. Satellites relayed information, drones provided reconnaissance, and strategists coordinated movements across thousands of kilometers. The level of coordination was unprecedented, a testament to decades of preparation and planning. Far from Earth, other civilizations were beginning to react. Sensors had picked up the disturbances, the massive energy outputs, and the calculated destruction of the Dominion fleet. Some aliens began to reconsider their assumptions about humanity. They had once seen Earth as a minor player, a quiet observer in the galaxy. Now they were realizing that patience, preparation, and ingenuity could be more dangerous than raw numbers or technological superiority. Even within human ranks, there was an understanding that the war machines were more than just tools of war. They were symbols of humanity's determination, its ability to prepare, and its refusal to be underestimated. Every victory, every successful defense, was a reminder of what humans could accomplish when united by purpose and guided by intelligence. The machines were powerful, but the humans behind them were the true force. As the battle near Mars continued, the Dominion fleet attempted one final maneuver. They concentrated their fire on a massive war machine positioned near a critical outpost. The humans controlling the machines anticipated this, and smaller, faster units moved to intercept. The large machine absorbed the initial impact, shielded by both human strategy and technological design, while the smaller machines flanked the attackers. The maneuver was precise, almost surgical. Dominion ships were neutralized one by one, their forces collapsing under the combined weight of human ingenuity and mechanical might. When the battle ended, the war machines did not celebrate. They returned to standby positions, scanning for any further threats. Humanity had demonstrated power, but they had also demonstrated restraint. The galaxy needed to understand that humans were not reckless. They were precise, prepared, and capable of defending themselves and their world with unmatched efficiency. The Dominion had learned a hard lesson. Underestimating humans was no longer an option. Their fleet limped away, damaged and demoralized, carrying news of what they had encountered. Far across the stars, other civilizations began to reconsider how they perceived Earth. Humans were no longer passive observers. They were guardians of their own world, patient and prepared and willing to act decisively when provoked. On Earth, humans returned to their work. The war machines were checked, repaired, and maintained. Every data point from the battle was analyzed, every movement scrutinized, and every lesson recorded. Humans understood that this was only the beginning. The galaxy was vast, and there would be more threats, more challenges, more moments that would test their patience, their ingenuity, and their determination. And yet, even as the humans prepared for the next phase, there was a quiet pride. The first engagements had shown the world what humanity was capable of. They had proven that intelligence, planning, and patience could overcome overwhelming odds. They had proven that humans, when united and focused, could stand against forces far greater than themselves. And they had proven that the war machines, combined with human judgment, were more than a weapon. They were a promise that humanity would not be ignored, that Earth would be defended, and that the stars themselves would take notice. Even the smallest humans, those who had watched from hidden command centers or participated in the preparation without ever seeing battle, felt a connection to what had occurred. They understood that every calculation, every repair, every moment of preparation had contributed to this outcome. Humanity had acted as one, and the galaxy had taken notice. The battle near Mars was not the end, but it was a turning point. Humanity had shown its hand, revealed its strength, and proven that patience and preparation were just as powerful as any weapon. The Dominion would think twice before challenging humans again, and other civilizations would begin to reconsider their assumptions about Earth. As the war machines returned to standby, scanning the solar system for further threats, humans allowed themselves a moment to reflect. They had achieved something incredible, something that would be remembered in history, not because of violence or destruction, but because of precision, intelligence, and the unwavering determination to protect their world. The solar system was alive with possibility, danger, and the hum of the war machines. Humans had awakened, a new chapter in galactic history. The stars had noticed, and the galaxy would never again see Earth in the same way. And in that quiet moment, as machines stood ready and humans prepared for what would come next, one truth was clear. Humanity was no longer passive. Humanity was awake. Humanity was ready. The events near Mars had sent waves across the galaxy. The Dominion fleet had been defeated, their arrogance shattered, and their plans delayed. Yet humans knew this was only the beginning. The galaxy had been watching quietly for decades, thinking Earth was weak, insignificant, and patient. Now the truth was clear. Humans had patience, intelligence, and strength, and they were ready to use it when necessary. From Earth, humans monitored signals from distant civilizations. They could see the shock, the fear, and the uncertainty spreading through the systems that had once dismissed them. Reports indicated that ambassadors were being sent, fleets were gathering, and urgent communications were being made. The galaxy had realized something important. Humanity was no longer a silent observer. Humans were a force capable of precision, strategy, and unimaginable patience. Humanity's next move was not one of aggression. It was a message. The war machines, which had proven their power, were positioned strategically across the solar system, Massive units stood near Mars and the Moon, while smaller, agile machines patrolled key routes to Earth and other colonies. They were visible enough for the galaxy to notice, yet they maintained a careful order, showing that humanity's strength was deliberate and controlled. The first communication was sent not through weapons, but through signals. Humans transmitted carefully coded messages, broadcast across multiple frequencies, reaching the systems that had once ignored Earth. The message was simple, direct, and undeniable. Humanity had the power to protect itself, and it would act decisively if threatened. The stars seemed to respond to the clarity of the message, and even the Dominion, battered and retreating, understood the warning. Across distant planets, the reactions were varied. Some species began to reconsider alliances, worried that underestimating humans could be disastrous. Others debated whether to confront Earth or remain distant. A few sent envoys, seeking dialogue, hoping that diplomacy could prevent further conflict. But the signal had been sent. Humans were awake, and the universe would not forget the lesson of Mars. Back on Earth, humans monitored every response with intense focus. Analysts worked around the clock, interpreting messages, calculating probabilities, and preparing for every possible reaction. War machines stood ready, scanning the skies, orbiting strategically, and reporting every anomaly. The humans operating them knew that their role was not simply to fight, but to demonstrate restraint, intelligence, and the will to protect life. The galaxy had learned that patience did not mean weakness, and now humans were showing what it meant to act decisively. Meanwhile, the Dominion fleet, having regrouped at the far edge of the system, debated their next move. Their losses had been significant, their confidence shaken. Reports of Earth's hidden war machines, their speed and their precision forced them to reconsider plans for further aggression. They were no longer dealing with a small, unprepared planet. They were facing a civilization that had anticipated threats for decades, a civilization capable of adapting faster than anyone had imagined. Humans were careful in their actions. The war machines did not pursue destruction beyond what was necessary. They did not attack indiscriminately. Each movement was calculated to ensure maximum defense with minimum unnecessary damage. It was a demonstration of strategy and morality, a reminder that humans were not only strong, but intelligent, patient, and capable of exercising restraint even when provoked. The message spread far beyond the Dominion. Other alien civilizations, watching from a distance, began to grasp the full extent of humanity's preparation. They saw the machines in action, the precision of the strikes near Mars, and the careful positioning of units across the solar system. Slowly, fear spread among some, while others reconsidered their approach to diplomacy and trade. Humans were no longer a quiet world. They were a power to be reckoned with. In the war rooms of Earth, humans understood the significance. They had shown the galaxy that they could protect themselves, but they also had a responsibility to maintain balance. Every action had consequences, and the decisions made in the coming days would shape relationships with alien civilizations for generations. There was pride, yes, but also caution. Humans had waited long, prepared carefully, and now they needed wisdom to accompany their power. The war machines continued to patrol, their sensors scanning the far reaches of the solar system. Smaller units moved between moons and orbital stations, observing, gathering intelligence, and ensuring that no enemy forces attempted to regroup unnoticed. Massive machines stood sentinel near Mars, the Moon, and strategic outposts, their presence a constant reminder that humanity was vigilant and prepared. During this period, humans also focused on alliances. They reached out to peaceful alien species who had once been overlooked, offering protection, trade, and collaboration. These species, often small, vulnerable, or isolated, found safety under humanity's watch. Humans did not seek to dominate, but to ensure that no world would suffer because of the mistakes of the impatient or arrogant. It was a careful, deliberate effort to build trust while demonstrating strength. As weeks passed, the galaxy adjusted to this new reality. Reports from multiple sectors confirmed that humans had changed the perception of their species. They were no longer seen as primitive observers. They were strategists, defenders, and masters of preparation. The war machines, silent yet imposing, had become symbols of humanity's patience, intelligence, and resolve. Even the Dominion, recovering from their defeat, realized that open aggression was no longer an option. They observed humans carefully, noting strategies, movement patterns, and deployment tactics. Some leaders debated whether to risk another confrontation, while others suggested seeking dialogue or alliances. Humanity had sent a clear signal. Patience was a strength, preparation was a weapon, and restraint could be just as powerful as aggression. Humans on Earth understood that the galaxy had learned an important lesson. They had not sought unnecessary conflict, but they had acted decisively when provoked. The war machines had defended lives, protected colonies, and demonstrated the power of intelligence, strategy, and preparation. The message was simple. Humanity would not be ignored, and the stars themselves seemed to acknowledge this truth. Indo. Quiet moments, engineers and operators reflected on what had been achieved. Decades of work, secrecy, and preparation had led to this point. The war machines were more than tools. They were extensions of human ingenuity and determination. Every calculation, repair, and deployment had contributed to a system that could adapt, respond, and protect with unmatched efficiency. Humans had combined intelligence and technology to create a force that was both disciplined and formidable. The stars seemed to respond in their own way. Across the galaxy, signals and energy patterns shifted as civilizations reconsidered assumptions and recalculated their strategies. Humanity's actions had caused a ripple effect, not through force alone, but through the demonstration of patience, intelligence, and readiness. The galaxy was waking up to a truth it had long ignored. Humans were capable, resilient, and unpredictable. Even the smallest humans involved in the operations felt a sense of connection to the events unfolding. They had contributed in ways that were quiet, unnoticed, but vital. Their work ensured that war machines functioned perfectly, that strategies were executed flawlessly, and that humanity's message reached every corner of the solar system. Every role mattered, every contribution was important, and every human involved understood the weight of responsibility they carried. As Part 5 draws to a close, the galaxy had seen a new force. Humans had acted decisively, defended their world, and protected others who could not protect themselves. The war machines stood ready, not in aggression but in vigilance. The Dominion and other alien civilizations were forced to reconsider, realizing that patience and preparation were weapons as powerful as any fleet of ships. Humanity had sent a clear message: do not underestimate us. Do not mistake our silence for weakness. We are patient, prepared, and capable of defending ourselves and those we care for. And the stars themselves seemed to whisper their acknowledgement, a silent recognition that the universe had changed. The galaxy would never forget the day humanity revealed its strength, its patience, and its resolve. And humanity, in turn, knew that vigilance, intelligence, and unity would always be their greatest allies. The galaxy had changed, and humans knew it. After decades of preparation, careful planning, and patient observation, the moment had come when humanity could step fully into its own power. The war machines, now fully tested and deployed across the solar system, had proven their worth. They had defended Earth, neutralized hostile forces, and sent a message to the stars that humans were no longer to be underestimated. Yet even with this success, there was a deeper responsibility that weighed on every human involved, protecting not just themselves, but the innocent and the future of life in the galaxy. From Earth, command centers buzzed with activity. Humans monitored signals, coordinated deployments, and studied energy patterns from distant systems. The universe was vast, filled with civilizations that were curious, cautious, or hostile. Humans understood that the first step in survival was awareness, and the second was preparation. Every war machine, every sensor, and every human operator had a role to play in this delicate balance. Even as victories accumulated, humans acted with care. The war machines were designed for precision, capable of neutralizing threats without unnecessary destruction. They moved through the solar system with calculated purpose, patrolling, monitoring, and protecting. Their presence alone sent a clear signal to anyone who might threaten Earth or its allies. Humans would defend life, with intelligence, courage, and unwavering determination. The Dominion, still recovering from their defeats, had not vanished. They lingered at the edges of the solar system, observing, reassessing, and planning. Their leaders had learned a vital lesson. Humans were not a species to be underestimated. Their patience, preparation, and strategic thinking were unmatched. Any further attempt at aggression would now be met not just with machines, but with decades of human knowledge, planning, and adaptability. Humans used this time to strengthen alliances with peaceful civilizations. Many had once been overlooked, small or isolated, lacking the resources to defend themselves against stronger neighbors. Humanity offered protection, guidance, and collaboration. These species, who had once lived in quiet corners of the galaxy, now found a powerful ally. Humans did not seek dominance, they sought balance. Their goal was survival, protection, and the assurance that no innocent life would be destroyed by the arrogance or impatience of others. Across the galaxy, reports reached alien leaders. Some reacted with caution, others with fear. They had underestimated humans, dismissed their patience as weakness, and now faced the reality of a species that could plan for decades, adapt faster than expected, and act decisively when required. Humanity's actions had changed perceptions forever. The stars themselves seemed to bear witness to the rise of this new force, as if the universe acknowledged that patience, preparation, and intelligence could shape destiny. On the ground, humans worked tirelessly to maintain the war machines and ensure their readiness. Engineers adjusted systems, scientists monitored energy flows, and strategists simulated possible scenarios. Even minor adjustments mattered, for every action in space could ripple across vast distances. The humans understood that this was not simply a show of power, it was a demonstration of responsibility. They were guardians, not conquerors, and every decision reflected this principle. In orbit around the planets, war machines moved with silent precision. Massive units stationed near Mars and the Moon acted as deterrents, while smaller, faster units patrolled trade routes and critical points throughout the solar system. They observed without unnecessary interference, but they were always ready to act if threats emerged. The galaxy had seen what humans could do, but humans knew that vigilance would always be required. Even the Dominion, weakened and cautious, could not help but notice the careful restraint humanity exercised. Unlike previous conflicts where aggression might have escalated unnecessarily, humans balanced strength with intelligence. Every strike was measured, every deployment purposeful. The galaxy began to understand that humans had mastered a rare combination: the patience to wait, the intelligence to plan, and the courage to act decisively. As humans continued to protect their solar system, communication channels opened with civilizations that had once been isolated or ignored. Humans offered guidance, shared knowledge, and extended their protection. This was a deliberate act, showing that power could be combined with morality, that strength could coexist with responsibility. Through these actions, humanity was not only defending itself, but also building a reputation of reliability, fairness, and resolve. The solar system, once quietly observed by distant civilizations, now thrummed with the activity of a species that had earned its place in the galaxy. War machines moved silently, sensors scanned endlessly, and humans coordinated every aspect with meticulous care. They were ready for any challenge, yet they understood that readiness alone was not enough. Wisdom, foresight, and restraint were equally crucial. Humanity had learned this through decades of preparation, observation, and experience. Alien civilizations began to recognize that humans were different from what they had expected. They were not impulsive conquerors, nor were they naive dreamers. Humans combined intelligence, patience, and adaptability in a way that was rare in the galaxy. Their actions had created a ripple effect, influencing others to reconsider their assumptions and strategies. The stars themselves seemed to reflect this change, as if the universe acknowledged the rise of a species capable of shaping events with careful thought and decisive action. In the control centers on Earth, humans reflected on what had been accomplished. The war machines were more than technology. They were symbols of human ingenuity, patience, and resolve. Every sensor, every calculation, every deployment represented decades of work, sacrifice, and preparation. The humans operating them understood the responsibility they bore, not just for Earth but for the future of life in the galaxy. The Dominion, still at the edges of the solar system, began to reconsider their strategy. Their fleet was diminished, their confidence shaken, and their assumptions about humans forever altered. They had underestimated patience and preparation. They had failed to recognize that humans could combine intelligence with technology to create a force that was both formidable and disciplined. Any future confrontation would be measured against this new reality. Humanity, in turn, had learned a vital lesson about the nature of the galaxy. Strength alone was not enough. Patience, preparation, and the ability to act with intelligence and morality were equally important. The war machines were powerful, but they were effective because humans guided them with careful thought, strategy, and restraint. The stars had witnessed this demonstration, and the universe had begun to acknowledge the rise of a species that could no longer be ignored. As months passed, humans continued to refine their systems, strengthen alliances, and maintain vigilance. Every war machine was checked, every system updated, every strategy reviewed. Humans understood that their work was never complete. The galaxy was vast, unpredictable, and full of potential threats, but humans had learned to prepare, to anticipate, and to act decisively. They had transformed patience into power, intelligence into strength, and vigilance into guardianship. And the stars seemed to cry out, not in fear, but in acknowledgement. Across the galaxy, civilizations noted the presence of a species that had waited patiently, prepared meticulously, and acted decisively. The war machines had proven their worth, but the humans behind them had proven something even greater: the power of patience, preparation, and unity. The solar system was no longer quiet. Humans had awakened, demonstrated their strength, and protected life both on Earth and beyond. They had combined intelligence, courage, and technology in a way that no civilization could ignore. And while the galaxy was still vast and challenges would continue to arise, humanity had made a declaration. They would protect themselves and the innocent. They would act with precision, and they would always be ready. Even in quiet moments, humans reflected on the journey that had brought them here. Decades of preparation, secrecy, and labor had culminated in a demonstration that would be remembered for generations. The war machines, standing silently in orbit or patrolling distant moons, were a testament to what humans could achieve when intelligence, patience, and courage were combined. The galaxy had witnessed the rise of a new force. The Dominion and other civilizations had learned that patience, preparation, and calculated action were as powerful as any fleet. Humans had shown that they could protect themselves, defend others, and act decisively when necessary. The stars themselves seemed to cry out in acknowledgement, a silent witness to the power of a species that had waited, prepared, and finally acted. And as humans looked to the stars, they knew that their journey was just beginning. The galaxy was vast. Challenges would come, and vigilance would always be required. But humanity had learned to combine intelligence with courage, patience with action, and preparation with responsibility. The universe had taken notice, and the stars would never see Earth the same way again. Humanity had fulfilled a promise to itself and to the galaxy. They had protected life, demonstrated strength, and shown that patience and preparation could shape destiny. The war machines, impressive as they were only part of the story. The humans who built, guided, and operated them were